We'll call this meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I
Pledge
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Foley,
There.
trustee Lappin,
Here.
clerk Palovich here, treasurer Ellery Summers.
Here.
Trustee Kroll,
Excused absence.
trustee Reiner,
Potentially tardy, otherwise absent.
supervisor Skibby.
Present.
Potentially.
That's it's a day-to-day activity. That being said, at this point in time, is there any additions, corrections, substitutions for the agenda?
I think we might want to take paid on call raise with tiers off because we didn't get any
Okay.
information, so I think we should remove that.
Well, table that on to the next subsequent meeting.
Yes.
Okay, with that being said, is there anything else? Otherwise, I'd entertain a motion to adopt the amended agenda as presented.
So moved.
We have a motion on the table. Is there support?
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of adopting the amended agenda signify by saying aye. Aye. Oppose the same. This is the first opportunity for public comment. If there is any public comment online, please use the bottom taskbar, the ellipsis to the right to raise your hand or to use the chat box to allow us to identify you and your comment. Again, this is the first opportunity for public comment. We'll take any online. I don't see any public comment present, otherwise stated. If there's none online, this is pertaining to the agenda items as presented. Seeing none, we'll move forward to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to, well, first off, does anything need to be pulled to be discussed in greater detail? Correction, substitution, otherwise I'd entertain a motion to adopt the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
We have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. Is there support?
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Further discussion?
Just a quick note.
Yes.
I did not get my report into the clerk on time, so I did put it in everybody's mailboxes. Just so everybody
I
knows.
did get it.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, with no other discussion, roll call, please.
Clerk Palovich, yes. Treasurer Ellery Summers.
Yes.
Trustee Foley,
Yes.
trustee Lappin.
Yes.
Supervisor Skibby.
Yes. Moving forward into new business, today we have Quentin with us, who's going to give us a little recap of the renewal that's in your board packet. Quentin, thank you very much.
And thank you. I appreciate the time, guys. I know you're busy today, so I'm gonna make it pretty quick. I was talking with Michelle about this year's renewal, and it certainly sounded like it might make some sense to address the full board and just talk through what we're seeing from an insurance perspective. Before I do that, based on the intros I made at the beginning, it does sound like I should make an introduction. So my name's Quentin Meek. I work with Lappin Agency. I've been with Lappin Agency going on 4 years now. So I moved up to the area from Metro Detroit. I work exclusively on our municipal accounts and then our large commercial kind of complex specialized accounts. So this is what I do. And today, why I think that matters a little bit is, and I brought Mike Gambos with me as well from the power plan. I do want to talk to what we're seeing on a macro environment from an insurance market perspective, because it is impacting your renewal a little bit this year. And I think it makes sense for you all to know. So rather than give you the 411 on this program, I think you're all pretty familiar with it. You know, we've insured you through the power plan going on, better part of well over a decade, well before my time. So I think you know how the program functions. If you don't at a high level, we have Lappin Agency as your broker, and then you have the PAR plan, which is providing insurance coverages, but also a bevy of risk management resources. So we have in-house claims that works directly with the PAR plan. So we're not farming those claims out to independent adjusters. We have individuals like Mike Gambos who work on the risk management team. I think you're all pretty familiar with Mike, and he works very closely with the fire chief here. He's available whenever you need him. If we need to talk through risk management, which can take a lot of different forms, Mike can come in and help out with that. He's highly specialized in that area. It's a huge benefit. The other benefit, and one I want to hone in on today, especially since I'm going to walk you through an increase that you're going to see this year in your premiums, is it's a dividend-based program. So the PAR plan offers a dividend each year based on PAR plan performance. So not the performance of the township of Alpena, but performance as a whole. That you will also have as a dividend program your workers' compensation coverage. So I did pull some numbers. I thought it made sense to go back to 2016. That's kind of, we run on about a 7-year look back on your dividends for the PAR plan. So I pulled the same for workers' compensation. You know, in total since 2016, you're looking at a total dividend cut of $33,549 and some change. So you've received a pretty steady dividend year over year. It's always going to fluctuate, but all told, I mean, you're averaging a pretty good dividend year over year. You also pay a decent amount in insurance coverage. So it makes sense. But I wanted to start with that number because we are going to talk about an increase. And I think it makes sense to know that you're not just always paying premium. Your premium's also paying claims for you. And in this case, in this program, you're also receiving a dividend. So this year, what are we seeing? We're seeing a blended 10% increase. So I know Michelle included the documentation in your board packets. What we're looking at is a total premium this year of, one second here, $81,885. Now that's split. That is split between your PAR plan premium and your workers' compensation premium. Your PAR plan premium is up about 15%. Spend just a second there. Why are we seeing a 15% increase? We're really not seeing it a ton from your claim activity. I think you're running a loss ratio of about 40%, which means the insurance carrier is still profitable. So this isn't an increase based on what the Charter Township of Alpena is doing. This is more an increase driven by what's happening in the macro environment. So we've had a couple of things happen over the last 3 to 5 years. We're seeing inflation in general, so material inflation. We've seen that obviously, as you know, run 8, 10%, even higher in some cases. It's driving claim costs up. That's impacting your township. It's impacting townships I talked to 2 hours south of here. It's impacting townships I talked to 2 hours north of here. Claim costs have risen dramatically. Insurance carriers are working to catch up and close that gap. So you're going to see some increase from that alone. The other thing you're seeing at the same time is social inflation. So it is no doubt, as you've probably seen in the news, and COVID didn't do us any favors with this, we've seen an increase in social inflation. What do we mean? We're talking liability claims, whether it's public officials claims, whether it's general liability claims. We're seeing more of them, and we're seeing an increased cost of them. So that's driving some cost increase as well as carriers work to adjust and catch up to what's happening there. The third factor here that we're seeing in general is that on the work comp side, your experience mod is up a little bit. So does everybody know what the experience modification is? Okay, so your experience modifier is basically driven based on your loss performance. So you've had a little bit of loss history. I pulled this up. So we're seeing a couple of work comp claims. And what it's done is it's taken your experience mod and it's put it above a 1. A 1's like your baseline. So when you get done taking your base rate on workers' compensation, you take that and you multiply it against your mod. When it's at 1 or below, you're either staying flat or you're receiving a little bit of a credit for it. Well, where we're at right now is you're at a 1.4, driven by past loss history. So you saw a little bit of an increase in your premium this year, is about an 8% increase on the work comp alone, driven by the experience mod. Now that number comes back down with clean loss history. So I think what we want to keep in mind as we move forward is the nicks, scratches, things like that. If it's medical only, if we're not talking about a back injury or a serious injury, we want to talk about making sure we have that conversation. Does it make sense to pay this out of pocket? We can help you with that. You don't have to make that decision alone. When you go to submit a claim, reach out to us. Let's talk through the parameters of the claim. What is it? Should it be an incident only where we just pay the medical out of pocket? I think that'll make sense in some cases. In other cases, it could be a back injury, or it could be an injury we know is going to linger. It could be a bigger claim situation. Those are the claims we'll probably still push through. But I think as long as we keep an eye on this, you're going to see that trend back downward, barring any unfortunate claim activity. But we can impact this number by making sure we just keep an eye on it. I mean, happy to have conversations. I don't see a trend. If I saw a certain trend driving it up, I think we could address it. the bottom line is you just had some claim activity. I mean, I see somebody slipped and fell on ice, injured right arm and shoulder. I mean, these things happen. It's why you have work comp. So I'm not seeing a specific trending, but I think we just want to keep an eye on it, be mindful of it, and we're committed to doing that to make sure we can drive that down.
Well, if they fell on ice, that would have been a while ago.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's how it
Yep.
works out.
Yep. So yeah, it's going to impact you year and a half,
Oh.
2 years later on your term. Yeah. So all told, that's driving the increase. Those are the justifications, as to why. Some other things I'll share with you, Supervisor Skibby and I had a quick conversation around one exclusion that's been issued this year. It's a new exclusion for the PAR plan. We've seen it issued pretty holistically across the industry. I believe that the PAR plan was laid on this, to be honest with you. It's a PFAS exclusion, which covers a bunch of other chemical names I honestly can't pronounce, but I'm just going to call them PFAS. So
there's 4,000 in the
Yeah.
family of PFAS.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Don't worry.
So I'm gonna skip over that one, but the bottom line is it's a new exclusion, and I want you all to be aware of it. I don't think it puts you in an unnecessary crosshairs. I mean, at the end of the day, the manufacturers are where we see the liability claims being driven. The reality of it is the fire department has used those chemicals, not, in any ill, tempered way or mannered way, but the fact of the matter is it's been included in firefighting foam for years. So I just want you to be aware that exclusion's on the policy. We haven't seen a situation where you as a fire department have been pulled in from a case law perspective and where you've been left on the hook. Typically, it's going back to the manufacturer. So just making you aware that that's a change and want to make sure, you're in the loop on that. The other changes on the fire vehicles. So you'll see that it's termed agreed value now, not replacement cost. It always has been in the policy language an agreed value coverage. So what we mean by that is, was it true replacement cost ever? Not technically. It's always been agreed value, but they've changed the terminology. If you look at your schedule now, you're not going to see dash replacement cost. You're going to see dash agreed value, because truthfully, that's what it is. And the PAR plan feels that brings more clarity to it. The reality is it's still not actual cash value. It's still better than actual cash value. You're not going to see the depreciation hit you, but we are going to see a max like we always have with replacement cost if you're underinsured on your fire vehicles. I think we're in an okay spot. Honestly, with the charter township, I do think we should keep looking at them. But I think I just want to make you aware, if you should receive that notice in the mail, that that's what it is. So, yeah,
By all means, Laura.
Here's that question. So under the bond coverage for the treasurer, clerk, supervisor and deputies. The clerks is substantially higher than the others at 200,000. Why is that?
was that?
I know why.
Did
That
that
was
drive?
just simply at the request of the township.
Yeah.
So the minimum amount.
This was prior
Prior.
to becoming clerk.
Yeah, Yeah, this was at least a clerk ago. And so they just felt as though was it 25,000 free?
Yeah, but it's
$25,000 was just inadequate based upon the amount of available monies. And so the decision was made to raise it to 200,000.
But it's, I mean, so much more than the treasurer or the supervisors.
The treasurer, from an access standpoint, doesn't have the access that the clerk would have
Access to
to
what?
monies.
Really? Cause I feel like.
Well, I would have more access to money.
I think too, it arose a while back, there was tax liability, taxes
Oh,
weren't paid on time, and
yeah.
penalties, and all of a sudden the township was looking at some potential
And that's
State
still
large
limbo yet,
issues, yeah.
parts, a small portion.
So
but-
with that said, I mean, I just didn't know if it could,
Yeah.
if it was
No.
lowered, if we could save a little bit of money on our insurance.
I
I mean,
don't, if memory serves me right, and Quentin, you may have the worksheet. I don't think the increase to 200,000 was a substantial amount of money. I want to say it was like. I want to say it was under 200.
I was gonna say it's a couple $100 or less is what you'd see as an impact.
Well, and if we still have that thing going on,
Yeah.
I would keep it.
The 941 tax is still kind of out there pending yet.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Well,
Wow, so that goes back several years then.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Two
so
clerks ago.
Oh, it's going on 7, 8 years, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So it, what that question does, make me want to mention though is, I don't just renew this thing each year and think, great, I mean, there's obviously a 10% increase. So I do look at what could we potentially do to bring ourselves to flat. You never are going to get there by keeping coverage the same. You're gonna have to give coverage up. So I did look at what would lower limits be? What would that do to premium? I'm doing that with every township transparently. You could call, I was at Greenbush Township last week. I mean, you could call just about any of my townships. If they're not at the base limits, which are 1 million, 3 million, I'm having a conversation with them. Mostly from an education perspective. I never recommend reducing limits if we can help it, but the option exists because I don't want you to think that we're just good with the 10% increase. We want to think about ways we can keep it as flat as possible. A decrease, so you're at 3 million, 5 million limits, meaning you got a 3 million occurrence limit, a 5 million aggregate. I think most importantly, it means you have a 3 million auto liability limit, which I think is positive given you got firefighters out on the road. If we lowered that to a 1 million, 3 million, save you about $2,000. I don't see that as a benefit or a value add this year. We'll keep an eye on what the market's doing. I mean, I don't think the market's going to slow down. I told Michelle, I mean, we're not going to see a flat renewal next year. It's not going to happen. Hopefully more in that 5 to 10% range, not 15 like we did this year. But I'm not going to even promise that. I mean, the renewals I'm starting to see for later this year are higher. They're about 20, 25%. So it's just the market. It's where the market's going. But know that we're also looking at other ways we can keep it as flat as possible without sacrificing coverage.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Meek? In regards to the fluctuation in the insurance renewal costs? If there's not, I guess I'd entertain. Oh, yes, sir.
How are we paying for this monthly? Just broke down to.
No, we
payment.
pay annually.
So we had a check for 81 grand.
Well, we were actually write 2 checks because one goes for
Oh,
the
okay.
accident fund and one goes for the,
So the money's there.
oh yeah, it's all budgeted.
Hey,
So-
Quentin, you might want to talk a little bit about. See if I can find it or. In the proposal. You'd made a. You touched on the scholarships. Looks like, since I've been dealing with this, there's been some benefits, increased benefits from a scholarship standpoint. Are you familiar or? Perhaps
it's in the brochure there. The yellow one. The grant program.
I know that, do you still have if somebody is on the planning commission and you send them, okay. So if we have a new member that joins the planning commission and you want to send them to probably an MSPO or some other sort of seminar. Our plan in the past has paid for that up to a certain dollar amount, I think it was. So you can't get a suite or something like that. Could, but we're not gonna pay for that.
What are we at, 1,500 or 2,000? Isn't it around, isn't that, yeah,
Yeah.
in that vein. So I mean, yeah, definitely value add. I mean,
Yeah, oh yeah, I think it's been in my tenure, I've had a great working relationship with Mr. Gombos and the power plan, and unfortunately. Accidents do happen, that's
Yeah.
why we have insurance, we've done a great job reducing that mod, but a couple.
I don't have a question so much for Quentin, but I would have a question. Several years ago. The workers' compensation mod was. Above 2, so it was significantly higher than what it would have otherwise had to have been. And I arranged for the accident fund to come here and to meet with the prior clerk and to go through steps that could be used to mitigate claims. So just because someone cuts their finger, it doesn't mean they automatically go to the emergency room. Has something happened that, because usually when you get a blip in the radar on the mod like that, it was as a result of either a shock loss or a series.
There
of
was a
losses.
bigger loss where someone fell, was off work.
Okay, that was the shoulder, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's sort of a one-time blip on the radar, it'll
Right.
go away relatively quick.
Yeah,
Yeah.
outside of that incident, principally, we've been doing an amazing job. of,
Yeah.
You know.
but
nipping it
that's
in
what
the
I mean.
bud.
Like, there's
We
not
had
a
a
ton
lot
of
of it.
trending I can
Yeah.
latch on and say,
So we need a couple more years of strong corrective action before the mod kind of starts, isn't it, on a
It's on a
Yeah.
3-year
three-year
cycle.
cycle? I couldn't remember
So-
what the cycle was.
and what I'll do is we have a program, it's called Mod Master. That doesn't really
Sounds
matter, but
awesome.
yeah, it sounds so cool, right? Yeah, insurance nerd stuff. I'll route it through that and I'll give that to you guys so you can see it. I mean, it'll just show you here's, and it takes into account expected losses too. So it's not a perfect world scenario. It's here's what we hope will happen in 3 years, even if you have some loss activity. That way we're all on the same page.
Well, and so what's great about that is you could effectively reduce your workers' compensation premium by 40%.
Mhm.
So
Oh,
it's really worth implementing.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah,
good.
we've had it in play. It's just we had to.
Yeah, I just wondered, you're like, holy.
So with
smokes.
that being said, if we could rap poetic about insurances with people at the table and the podium all day, but we have. other businesses, yeah. So I would entertain a motion to move forward with the proposal and associated costs as presented.
I'll make that motion.
Motion on the table. Is there support?
Support.
It's been trustee Lappin, you got the support. Further discussion? Seeing none, roll call please.
Treasurer Ellery Summers.
Yes.
Trustee Polly,
Yes.
trustee Lappin.
Yes.
Clerk Palovich, yes. Supervisor Skibby.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you guys. Appreciate the
you.
time.
I assume
you
that
for
we brought
coming.
down this list and it's all accurate information.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I-
Nathan
Michelle
and I
and
went
I
through
cover
it
that on an
before.
annual basis.
Yeah.
It's a fun routine. Next item of business is the Safe Streets for All grant application that you'll see in your board packet. Worked with Becky Rivard through here on engineering. This is one of two funding mechanisms that were discussed at the Intergovernmental Council in regards to, this is actually a two-phased funding mechanism for grants. First phase is for an action plan that you have to have in place for an implementation plan. This is, like I said, more generalized towards non-motorized traffic. But as you'll see, just the action plan can be funded up to 100,000 with 20% match. You can actually leverage other state and federal mechanisms and grants for that 20% as well. And obviously the grant date was previous to this meeting. So I have it in this packet because there is an associated cost, although that associated cost is recoverable through this grant for the engineering function. And I believe, let me get to that pretty much. We have, actually, it is completely folded in. So basically, more or less, this is informational. I'd entertain a motion to move forward with procurement of the Safe Streets for All grant funding mechanism up to $100,000 for non-motorized action plan utilization in the township, principally to start the conversation and continue the conversation at the Third Avenue extension. But also to actually broad stroke looking at all non-motorized traffic.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion on the table. Is there support?
Support.
It's been moved and supported. The determination on this grant cycle, I believe, takes place for the action plan contingent on October of this year. So anticipate this fall that we'll have further discussion of this. So we have motion and support, further discussion.
Here's a question. So, is anybody else going in on this? Or is it just?
No, so there's two different, going back to that conversation without kind of recreating the Intergovernmental Council, principally was for infrastructure expansion and how do we look at it so that we're proactive rather than reactive as a community. The principal project that is a discussionary point is one going back to the comprehensive traffic study that was now 20 years old and 10 years outdated on an amendment. That is also concurrently going to take place with our consultant Nico Tucker, whose complete grant funded salary is through MDOT. This is the non-motorized portion of that. So he's actually securing an additional 125,000 through his to do a redo of the comprehensive area traffic study, which historically, I believe, was conducted between the county road commission, city and us were the principal actors in those conversations. I think in that higher level discussion, we need to have a vested interest from all municipalities and what that economic driver looks like will be to be determined. but population basis is, say, 2/3 of the county's population are between the city and the township. So inherently, it makes a little bit more sense in regards there. But trustee Bowie?
Yes, and I think this is one thing that we should work on and stay steady on the Third Street bypass. I think it's very critical for our children in this community, not just the township, but all the school system. I think it's very important.
I think you may have just answered my question. So this grant is essentially for sidewalks.
Principally,
Okay.
you can integrate it in other functions that have to do with ease of non-motorized pedestrian utilization. So crosswalks, intersections, but yeah.
Yeah, so I happen to live in that area and there are 2 or 3 times a day, for sure, 2 times a day, where that traffic is nuts. And if there was an emergency of some sort and you had to get those kids emptied out of that school,
Yeah.
you couldn't do it.
So PA 51, this is a unique intersection in terms of our municipality, as it is actually awarded principal direction through the city under PA 51 and not the road commission. Henceforth, they actually, I was affiliated with the pre-con meeting about a month ago or so. And it's being driven by the city of Alpena. They actually found a grant mechanism to redo and implement different lighting in terms of traffic lights. I believe that phase of a construction for that intersection is going active 2024. But that was a good conversation because Hobbs is our municipal boundary. And then the unfortunate reality is that intersection falls completely in their domain. So at least we had some skin in that game.
Yeah.
But to have additional conversation of what it looks like for the non-motorized is also very valid.
Yeah.
So we do have a motion and support. Any other discussion? Seeing none, let's do a roll call.
Trustee Polly.
Yes.
Trustee Lappin.
Yes.
Clerk Palovich, yes. Treasurer Ellery Summers.
Yes.
Supervisor Skibby.
Yes. And like I said, that has been officially submitted, at the deadline, July 10th. The determination of said reward is in October. Moving forward into the next item of business is and I do apologize that I tried to have this to you over the weekend. We had some things pop up on Friday that kind of deterred my timeline a bit. But what we have before you, after several iterations, is a finalized group of township electorates that meet the standard for the Compensation Commission, of which there's also a working order as to their tenure and appointment terms by individual. So on this list, you'll see before you Anne Marie Rich, Andy Marceau, Bert Francisco, Bob Sprague, and Jim Mikowski. And at this point in time, I'd entertain a motion to appoint these 5 members with their concurrent timelines. Everybody should have a timeline associated.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion on the table. Is there support?
Where's the timeline?
Right.
At the end.
Should be right behind in the parentheses. Everybody got a
At the
term.
end of
Part of the compensation commission is, yeah, you have to have a cycle of 1 through 5 years as a term, as first year
I don't
appointment.
see a term.
Right at the very end.
It just doesn't have that.
Oh, 5
Oh, the
years.
email one didn't.
Oh,
The one on the desk.
No, yeah, because Tim reiterated, I had it handwritten on.
You're not clairvoyant
So-
then?
Okay.
That's it.
So we have, do we have a motion?
I have a
Okay,
I
we
made
have
the
we have a
motion.
motion on the table.
I'll
Do we have
support.
We have
Laura
support,
supported.
moved and supported, further discussion. Seeing none, roll call, please.
Do we need a roll? call?
No, there's no cost,
There's
but.
no.
Well, it's up to you.
hey,
Do you want a roll
Yeah, I
call?
would like.
Trustee Polly.
Yes.
Trustee Lappin.
Yes.
Clerk Palovich, yes. Treasurer Ellery Summers.
Yes.
Supervisor Skibby.
Yes. Thank you.
We have to have our first meeting
Within
by,
45 days.
no, by September 1st.
Okay.
And then they have to complete their, let me see, I wrote my notes.
45
Then
days.
they've got, then they got to complete their work within 45 days. So you and I can.
Yeah, and just so that the board is aware, I think in conversation, the approach, this being a new compensation commission, is to get all members together. Tim and I kind of lay down some rules of the road. At that point in time, my thought is I'm going to remove myself from those to be completely as unbiased as possible. Get them, make sure that they're pointed in the right direction. Tim can kind of help them from there. Look at some other communities that already have this. I've been utilizing. I got a question out to MTA, kind of kick off that conversation. And then let them do their work and come back. So. With that being said, moving on to the next item of business, which is the proposal to complete the USDA funding application for the water system meter project. This is a conversation that's been ebbing and flowing in our timeline within the enterprise fund. And it makes the absolute most sense at this point in time, given the fact that a vast majority of our labor through our current agreement is utilize reading meters. We could utilize our labor time through contract with F&B in extremely more valuable exercises than reading meters. So this is just for the application. I believe the total cost that was presented is at $5,100 if I.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And that would actually.
Are you going to use professional and contractual
That would
service?
be. Yeah,
All right,
we have two options. It would either be professional or contractual services or direct to engineering. And to me, it's either
Whatever.
or. So,
Do-
but you have a GL before you that I was
I do.
adequately funded, so
yes.
I would entertain a motion to move forward with the cost through F&B engineering at $5,100 to be utilized out of GL 592-537-801000 professional and contractual services. Is there a motion to that effect?
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion on the table. Is there support? I'll support it. Getting it up once every other month, I guess. So we have a motion and support. Further discussion?
Just one question.
Yep.
This is the second submission. that-
We have not submitted on this. No, you're confusing
Okay,
with
all right,
this
all right.
with the state revolving drinking water.
Right,
fund,
right.
which we have pushed our ITA, which is the intent to apply concurrent to the timeline. We'll be coming up into those those meetings with
Okay.
Eagle representatives here in the next month. And I believe that the determination on the state revolving fund doesn't take place usually
All right.
until September, October timeline as well.
All right, thank you.
Not a problem. So we have a motion and support on the table to move forward with the meter replacement USDA asked. Any other discussion, questions, comments? If not, I'd entertain our a roll call, please.
Trustee Polly,
Yes.
trustee Lappin.
Yes,
Clerk Palovich, yes. Treasurer Ellery Summers.
Yes.
Supervisor Skibby.
Yes. Moving forward into the new item of business, we have a recommendation from Chief Hansen to move forward with purchasing two portable radios, Kenwood radios from countywide. This is through the Grand Traverse Mobile Communication for a total of $3,921.60 to utilize GL 205-336-974-000. I'd entertain a motion to that.
I just have a question.
Yes, by all means.
Does this include the programming and all that?
It does.
Okay,
And is that the millage equipment fund, GL?
So it would come out of our rate, we're gonna take that rate out of our regular equipment.
not the communications one?
Because you do currently have communications, which I think would probably be the most direct coding mechanism for that GL. And it's adequately.
Let me just double check, it might be communications already, I can't remember what you do.
Yeah, communications is 205. Where the heck are you?
I had it under equipment, but we could probably take it out of communications.
I honestly, I believe that given the fact, you could synonymously say that a radio is a piece of
Communications.
equipment, but given the fact that a radio is a piece of communication equipment and not a piece of equipment opposite, it would make the most sense to
And
utilize.
I do think that in the future, if we're looking of when did we buy these, I'm gonna go to a GL that says communications to
Yeah.
find it. So what is,
To make the correction.
So we have a 205-336-850-000, or it's 3 zeros, I added a fourth there.
850,
850 is the last,
and it's,
second or third, and it's communications equipment.
okay. Is there enough money in there?
It's 12,000 funded currently, so adequate funding as well.
Okay,
So with that correction.
I'll
to
make
the
that motion.
recommendation, 850. We have a motion on the table to move forward with the recommendation, but utilizing GL 8500000 communications equipment. Is there a motion or a second?
Smart.
It's been moved and supported. Further discussion?
Yeah, Chief, could you tell me what these are used for and who's using them?
Sure can. Trustee Polly, all of our staff responds to any fire or medical emergency needs that communication, and that's who's currently going to be using them. And our priority right now is anybody that does both fire and medical. I want to have a radio in their hands because it's pretty pertinent that they have that ability to communicate.
Thank you very much, Chief.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Chief? Otherwise, roll call vote.
Trustee Lappin,
Yeah, yes.
clerk Flavich, yes. Treasurer Ellery Summers.
Yes.
Trustee Polly.
Yes.
Supervisor Skibby.
Yes. That concludes our new business. At this point in time, I'd entertain a motion to enter into closed session to discuss attorney-client privilege.
I'll make a motion that the board enter into closed session to consult with the township attorney regarding trial strategy in the water and sewer rate litigation pending before Alpena County Circuit Court pursuant to MCL 15.268(1)(e).
We have a motion on the table. Is there support?
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Further discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Clerk Flavich, yes. Treasurer Ellery Summers.
Yes.
Trustee Polly.
Yes.
Trustee Lappin.
Yes.
Supervisor Skibby.
Yes. We're officially in closed session at 1:36 PM. Thank you. Okay, we are now officially in open session. This is the second opportunity for public comment. If there is any public comment online that has any comments for the board, please utilize the bottom taskbar, use the ellipsis to utilize the raise hand function or send a message so that we can identify you and hear your comment.
The bottom right.
I don't know.
Oh,
Yeah, more. 3 dots, that's an ellipsis.
yeah, I know. I didn't know what it was called.
Giddy up. So again, this is the last opportunity for public comment. If there's any public comment online, please use the ellipsis under the more on the bottom taskbar of Zoom to raise your hand. Seeing no public comment, any,
So what's the ellipsis on the right hand
that's
side?
what I'm saying. Right there.
No,
Both
what's
sides.
the one
yeah.
that's next to the mute all?
Yeah. that's
Yeah,
the
but
one
they
I
can't
was-
see that. That's-
Oh,
Yeah.
oh.
Point of clarification.
That's the one I
So,
was looking
yes,
for
they
originally.
Seeing no public comment, any other discussion for the good of the order?
I'd just like to make one comment and let this board know and that the grounds look very nice around here with the flowers and the grass and being taken care of. I think it's the best it's looked in a long time. I don't know who's doing it, how it's being done, but it looks good.
Thank you, Norm. I
Very much.
think it's a group effort.
Most definitely. Is
Good.
there any
Thank
other discussion? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Oh,
We have a motion by trustee Lappin. Would you support?
I am
this?
supporting.
Okay, we have support by treasurer Ellery Summers to adjourn. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of adjournment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, oppose the same. Meeting adjourned at 2:33 PM. Thank you very much.